Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Todd Rodden. I'm a certified business and executive coach. I own Aspire Action Coach located here in the Dayton, Ohio area. And today I have the honor to have Ed Blake joining us. Ed is the CEO of Culmen Real Estate Services, providing commercial property and asset management services here in the Southwest Ohio region, and he'll go more into that. Again, if you're a first-time viewer of the Business Spotlight series, we're glad to have you here with us. Encourage you to go ahead and subscribe to this series so you can receive other great inspiring message from other business leaders besides Ed's as we drop regular updates as well. And please so others will be encouraged to join in on this series as well. So as we get started here, Ed, again, excited to have you with us here. Maybe just take a minute or two, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit about your role and about Culmen.
Thanks, Todd, and appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. As you mentioned, Ed Blake, and I'm the CEO of Culmen. What is probably interesting or somewhat unique about Culmen is we are actually a spinoff from the Miller Valentine Group, and we are the commercial property management and real estate investment management, and also really a little bit of a family office for the 60 years of the Miller Valentine Group's real estate development and ownership. And we really came about, we were approaching our fourth succession of transitioning the business to a new set of owners. Each succession over the years has been a little bit different because the circumstances were different. But basically what we did is we sold the Miller Valentine Commercial Construction Company and the residential, which is basically multifamily when I say residential, apartment development and management company, to our younger partners. And the older group of partners spun off the commercial real estate, property management and investment business, as well as what I would say is the family office of taking over the personal affairs of all the Miller Valentine partners of the last 60 years into a separate business. And part of it was, and as part of the process, we actually sold off, we were one of the largest affordable housing developers in the country, and the partners were running that business, found outside capital, and purchased that business as part of this transition. So we really kind of split up from one large conglomerate into more focused businesses for the owners that were really just interested in staying in the business they were working in. And many of those owners really didn't have a very big position in the investment real estate, because if everybody remembers the great financial recession, that was centered around real estate. And a lot of the people's values that were particularly in the development mode pretty well got wiped out at that time. And so our younger partners really, because of the difficulty in working through that time, really didn't have a lot of equity in the real estate. And they just really wanted to go the operating business and just focus on multifamily. That's where their passion was. So we completed over a course of a 3-year period, a very complicated kind of breaking ourselves up. But I think it was very healthy for all the different owners because it got them focused to what their real passions were and where they wanted to be. And there was then no longer this internal competition for capital. We had a lot of energetic people that wanted to do things, but our capital pool was limited, that we couldn't support everybody the way they wanted to. So, and really, 2020 hindsight, we are all much better off today than where we were if we tried to sell it as a conglomerate as a whole. So I really, and myself and a few of my larger owners of Miller Valentine, we just took this, spin off and reduced some of our equity interest in the larger Miller Valentine group. And we're really able to then just focus our time on our real estate portfolio. And our portfolio was really accumulated over 60 years of development. So we have all the legacy owners that go back to the founders, all the way to all the owners that had developed property probably up until like 2017.
A great background, great historic story. For those in this region, definitely recognize the Miller Valentine name for sure. And also I think there's a natural predisposition that bigger is always better, but that can be far from the truth. In fact, it can be a curse, right? It's that being able to focus in your sweet spot can really provide much more prosperity in that regard. So, with your role now as the CEO, given now this, stronger focus, tell us kind of what your focus, where you spend the bulk of your time as the CEO.
Yeah, well, what's really interesting. So I'm going to start out with the story starts with the old axiom, Father Time is an undefeated adversary. So, we have these generations of real estate, but everybody's getting older, and a couple of our founding partners have even passed away. So people are trying to appropriately liquidate them so that they don't have big pools of illiquid assets that then become the responsibility of kids and grandkids that really don't know anything about real estate, that weren't in the business. And so we have been, we started out with, let's just say 10 million feet of property, and then, some other assets, and so some different assets. And we are going through a gradual liquidation of these entities of the Miller Valentine. And, Culmen is the arm that manages the properties and the liquidation and does all the forecasts and sends the distributions and all of that. But we know our mission on one end is to do over a 10, 15-year period, and we're 6 years into it, a liquidation of these, sizable entities, but at the same time reinvent ourselves as a service company, because we have these strong capabilities to investment manage and property manage, but we're not going to be able to count on the Miller Valentine group as the sole customer. So on a property management side, half of our revenue is not Miller Valentine, is other people. So we're reinventing ourselves as a developer, from a developer focused entity into a broader service entity during this transition period, where we've had a very good and loyal customer, but we have a mission to help them do a controlled liquidation. Mm-hmm. And there are 4 primary entities that correspond with who the larger owners were at the time. So think of them as 10 or 15-year vintages of people doing development. And then when a younger group came in, they started over with a new vintage, and then a new vintage, and then a new vintage. So actually the founding partners entity has been totally liquidated to cash, and was done so at the end of 2021. So they no longer have any real estate, and all they have are liquid investments.
So as you make that pivot, you talked about reinventing yourselves, right? From more of a historic developer focus now into a much broader service. How have you had to change how you go to market, how you market, who you network with, and look to growth in the kind of broader suite?
it's a very different, because when you have basically a single company that you're working for as a customer, and they have a very strong culture and belief system on how they want things done, your entire organization is set up to satisfy that belief system at the price and the terms and the way you deal with their customers that correspond with that belief system. By having a much broader customer base, not everybody wants to be served the same way, wants necessarily the same services, and has the same, and they all do not have the same philosophy of how you create value in investment real estate. So we have to, and are still learning to pivot to different investment philosophies of different owners. And those owners could be all over the country, and they have different experiences, different expectations, what they're willing to pay for, what they're not willing to pay for. And it has been a very big cultural shift to try to meet the needs and with it the price structure that different owners want, when you have been focused with a very good and successful primary customer, but with a very core belief system on how things need to be done.
So in terms of kind of playing that forward, then how do you reach into the market to get that message out, that, hey, maybe what people might have perceived as what is your sweet spot, maybe it could be much different, much broader now?
Yeah, you know what has probably been the biggest challenge, and is still a challenge, is differentiating our service model for customers based on, what they really want and what they really want to pay for. So, and maybe an analogy is, if you think of the major car manufacturers, they have different brands that have different price points to serve different customers and what they're looking for. So our customer, in the sense of what they wanted out of us, was on the extreme premium brand. And part of it was they felt they wanted the tenants almost overserved, because we were in, not high demand markets, where there were high barriers to penetration for new development. Land in Ohio is not expensive. It's easy to get. It's not difficult to zone. So it's not hard to do new development. So it's not hard for someone to put up a new building next to yours in almost any market. So the philosophy of that owner was really serve the customer well, make sure you're spending the time to know their needs and anticipate. We really want to make sure we can renew this customer on the lease, the highest probability. And then we're very data analytic and information oriented. So we're going to have you do a lot of detailed work, projections, forecasts, all the rest of it to help us manage our investment. Well, in other markets where are very supply constrained, somebody may say, listen, if these people leave, I'm going to fill it, and maybe fill it at a higher rate. I don't want you to spend a lot of time out there, I don't need all this data analysis. I want you to drive my costs to serve in the building to the lowest core. There are other customers out there.
Yeah.
And Or my customer is only going to choose us on price anyway in this market. So I just need you to get us down to the lowest price we can charge on the rent. I don't want to pay you to spend time to know the customer.
Okay.
And that's very different. And so for us to pivot to spend the right resource and to use the right philosophy and managing the building for that owner, has to be different. We have some owners that are like REITs that says, listen, I just want, I got this big office in this big city. I just want you to go out there and fix the building for me when there's a problem. So, you be my 24-hour call center. I'll pay you for the maintenance people, but I don't really want to pay for a property manager to go out there and do anything. They can call me in the home office. We didn't have that type of business with Miller Valentine. We were the home office. So we have a very broad range of service needs. And we've had to learn to pivot to say, we can't use the Miller Valentine way. Or everyone doesn't want that way. Yet we have 30 or 40 years of people that's the way they know how to serve. Mm-hmm. And we're going to have to retrain our thinking to match the needs of a different customer. And that has been very difficult.
So I could see that you used the word culture earlier in that, because I could see within a team, especially again, organization that's got a long-standing tradition, setting now a business that has kind of more service focused and having service tiers, culturally a different mindset. So how have you had to approach that with your teams, how you staff, how you go after opportunities? Especially right now where labor and talent is hard to come.
And we're fortunate that as we go through this transition, we have just listen. Our average tenure from Miller Valentine to Culmen of my executive group is, I think I was looking at it in a comp survey. We have like 28 years on average. Some 45, some 15. But what that means is we also have a lot of people retiring. And what we're doing is, as we bring new people on, we're teaching, the technical skill set, but we're also trying to pivot with the new people to a different philosophy. They always say culture eats strategy. Trying to get somebody that's been doing something at an outstanding level for 30 years to do it differently, my experience has been it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. They feel like they're not doing a good job. It's not how you're supposed to do it. It takes away from their work satisfaction and their pride. What's better is, as we're going through succession, to train people and bring them in, but to start them out with a different model, give them the technical skills, but try to train them to the needs of the customer that they're serving. So, our senior people can help them with the technical building issue problems. This is what you do if this happens in a building or if this and that. But, within training them, it's going to be, hey, you don't have to go visit a building every week and talk to every tenant in it. Because our customer doesn't want you to do that, and they don't want to pay for that. So that's what we're remaking ourselves through our natural succession and attrition, versus trying to remake a 30 or 25-year employee into something totally different.
So as you look to replace those roles, as you have that natural attrition, what are the keys you've had for finding the right kind of talent? You talked about, hey, you recognize you need to do some training for them, but what are you looking for? What's been most successful?
We tried to hire more based on, technical skills first, and then take the best, what we thought was chemistry, cultural fit within the technical skills. And we weren't that successful. And what we've decided is, to be really good at our piece, you really have to have a customer service mindset. And you have to have a little bit of a thicker skin, because people call you up when there's a problem, not when everything is going well. Yeah. So you have to be able to take, whether it's an office manager, a building operations person or so on, somewhat in a panic or a crisis with a problem that's impacting them. And, they all believe everything should work perfectly all the time, and unfortunately things do break, everything in build and so on. There is an age, and you try to, be proactive on your replacement cycles, but stuff happens. So you have to be able to work through that crisis, jump on it, and, anticipate it, find the solution, and, help your tenant, who is the customer of your customer. Right. See, we're really the customer service department for the building owner. The building owner pays us, right, not the customer. So, so it really takes a great emotionally balanced person that has a heart of service to really succeed at the job, and somebody that doesn't get rattled easily. And so what we started doing is, and we need good teamwork. With new people, they need to work well with, our maintenance and technical people. They need to get the input of people that have been managing 20 or 30 years. So we hire for now the skills and the demeanor of the personality, and we can teach the technical. Because, there is no college degree in property management or asset management. So if we can get the, raw and a willingness to learn, we can teach it. As a matter of fact, one of our senior people actually teaches a course at Sinclair in property management and has for 20 years. So we find it that if we can, get the right clay, we're better at molding it with the technical. But, if somebody has the technical skills, but the clay isn't right, it just doesn't work.
Yep. Find that right mindset, like you said, that heart for service, and then you can do great things with them. Right?
Yeah. And we're not, I'm finding the place, our average age has got to be, I don't know, in the 40s. We've learned we're not the place for a brand new college graduate. We don't have enough young people of that, culturally, and our folks care as much about the environment they're in and who they work for as they do about, can I get promoted every 2 years? And so we have found the people that are looking for a home work better with us than people that are looking, to jump 5 levels in the next, 10 to 12 years.
So Ed, you've given a great backdrop of kind of the major transitions you've had with the business, the splitting off, breakups of the groups, and now you have this focus. You talk about this pivot around broader service and the cultural aspects of that. So you've experienced a lot, and a lot of our viewers are kind of newer entrepreneurs or new to senior leadership roles. So now as you look back of your lessons, what's the one or two things you'd love to tell your 25-year-old self, kind of newer in your business career, that others could learn from?
This is, when I really think about it, I will say it is all about, it's overset. It's all about the people, and that's broadly, and having the right, team. Like you said, you can have the greatest strategy playbook in the world, but if you don't have the right people to, execute it. And I will also tell you, I really believe culture eats strategy. So if you're totally going to change your strategy, you need to really look yourself in the mirror and say, is my culture going to fight this every step of the way? And I would say, the hardest thing for me is reconciling a good person, human being, person you like, and a good employee or partner. And where that is I, over the course of 40 something years, I don't think I've ever, maybe one or two, hired a bad person, but I have hired some bad employees, meaning they just didn't fit as hard as they tried or we tried. And even though they, might have put their heart and soul in it, it was misplaced effort, because either in our culture or their skill sets or whatever else really wasn't the right fit. And I liked the person so much in the effort, I didn't want to make that call and says, well, that's, we'll keep working with them. We'll keep coaching them. They keep trying hard. They're a great person. And, I've had to learn that, if it's just not a fit, they're still a great person. You need to help them find something that is, based upon what you know about them. You're going to be happier. They're going to be happier. As painful as that conversation is. And by the way, all their coworkers are going to be happier, that are frustrated that this good person can't carry their end of the load and is making the job harder for their coworkers. And I'll have to say, I've probably had to learn that lesson multiple times over the years. But
I'm laughing because I feel your pain. I feel your pain on that.
It's been the toughest one for me.
Well, hey, before I ask the final question, just great business leadership lessons there around the importance of people, culture, and making those difficult decisions and don't dragging them out. So before I ask the final question, is there any places you want people to learn more about Culmen? Any ways to stay connected with you and follow you?
I mean, anybody feel, if you see this or this webcast and you want to, you can email me or drop me a line, and please mention that that the contact was through this webcast. Because I was going to say, one of the things, we tend to get most of our business through word of mouth. It is not a big network of property owners that are looking for our type of service. We tend to get a lot of referrals from brokers that are doing the leasing for people that don't have property management, or some other owners that we know. So I do not take cold calls, or my days would be shot. But if it's something that I call a warm call, that it's a friend has asked, or, as Todd is a friend, if it's from this video or so on, I will return it. So feel free to contact me that way. And I'm happy to discuss my, experiences. And, succession, the other thing I would just say that went to the beginning, succession and doing it right is really hard work. And I would encourage everybody, I wish, we are big, the way I would describe it is, we got to the right place, but it was a lot like making sausage. It was messy. And there was a lot of pain and emotional energy that got there. And I wish we had spent more time earlier to make it a little easier to get where we got to. And it's because it is very judgmental work. It touches on a lot of, hard issues on the value of your company, what you're willing to sell it for. Do you want to market it? I would tell everybody, get on it and don't push it off. Because if you get to that day and you haven't spent the time, it's really time consuming and it's really painful.
Great advice. Outstanding advice. So those difficult decisions, they're going to be messy, but the longer you drag them out, really the more difficult they become, right? So Ed, thank you for joining us today, sharing your wisdom, leadership through multiple different transitions, a lot here around pivoting a long-standing organization and culture, tremendous learnings around team. Again, encourage folks who want to learn more, reach out to their website at culmenservices.com and learn a lot more there. So again, thanks for those who've joined us today for this spotlight interview with Ed Blake. And again, encourage you to subscribe to the channel so you can capture more great insights like Ed shared with us today. Thank you, and hope you all have a terrific day.